Hey, Matt.
Hey, Mike.
Well, it's been a little bit since a check-in on our game making. Should we do that?
Yeah, we should discuss game making and making of games.
Let us begin the discussion. Hello and welcome to Hacking the Grepson, yet another exciting episode in our series of Let's Make a Game. It's been a couple weeks since we last talked about making a game. So first check, is our game done?
No.
No. Okay.
Second check, is our game started?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So we're still good. This series still has legs. I remember the last time we talked, I talked about using Defold. Every time I think of that IDE framework, I want to say defend or something else. Defold is never the first thing. I get DE and then I have to stop and think, wait, what are the next four letters? I don't know. There's nothing about that app that says its name to me. Like, I don't know where that name comes from. It doesn't say game making. It barely says app. It's just like a weird random word to me. I don't know why.
I'm curious where that came from now.
Yeah, like...
I have to see if I can find out.
Like, is it just the opposite of folding? Is it like to fold something and then you defold it? Or is it...
Yeah, I used to fold and then I defolded.
Yeah, like, is it one of those things like flammable and inflammable where they mean the same thing? Folding, defolding?
I hope not. That would be really confusing. Like, is there even an about on their website that would tell me this?
Well, there is, because I talked about how it was made by some people who used to work at Avalanche, which made the Just Cause games. But it didn't say anything in there about the name or why it's called that, at least not on that page, so I don't know. But since then, I have not touched Defold. I have done nothing but Love2D. So I went in the exact opposite direction because they both use Lua, but I felt like I didn't do enough in Love2D to give it like a chance. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go in. I went through some tutorials. I started my own projects. I mean, we can get into, how far I got, but like that's really all I've done. And I did that in the space of like probably a good week. And then I just haven't really done anything. And that's often how my creativity works. I will get really into one specific project or type of project, and I will like do and think about nothing but that for a while, to the detriment of every other creative project. And then I'll just stop. And then I'll find it really hard to get back into it. So I don't know. What about you, Matt?
I have not played around with Love2D at all.
Excellent.
Since last time,
we have two different things to talk
I have, however, been playing with Defold. I went through the same thing right then, and I was trying to say the wrong name. Yeah, I've been playing around with Defold. I took their little astronaut walking tutorial, and I started modifying it because that's the closest thing to like a top-down thing. So I modified it in a variety of ways. I made it so that there was a rock tile. There was two different rock tile sprites. That's the word I wanted. I made a third that was like a destroyed version of those.
Okay.
And I made it so that if you shoot one of the types of rocks, it turns into the other one. And then if you shoot that one, it turns into the destroyed one.
Okay.
So like you can whittle it away. If it hits a wall, it hits a wall, right? And then yesterday I was playing around with it and I added the slingshotting and I made it so you could bounce the projectile off walls. And the bullet slows down as it goes. So, yeah, it's kind of fun. But that's all up on my GitHub, by the way. I think I shared that project.
Oh, okay. I'll have to double check. Because, I see the walking astronaut tutorial thing. I did not go through this, but yes, okay. This gives me at least a basic idea of what you were doing. So this is more of the overhead moving like up, down, left, right, as opposed to a platformer, which is just like moving left and right and jumping and falling, right?
Exactly. It's about where I was with the Love2D one, except with sprites. So it turns out there are some rendering options for primitives, like so that's good. It's not entirely 100% sprites. You can do other things. Yeah. But Defold is sprite based, it looks like. So that's its That's it. That's its default, right? You go through that, which isn't bad. Sprites are very common, especially in 2D games. I don't mind them, except I'm not an artist, so I also wouldn't be the one drawing them, probably. I'll make a little stick man next or something.
Yeah.
But they're pretty easy to do. Defold has a couple of different ways that you can load sprites in. One is like your standard sprite sheet tile map kind of thing. And the other is you could just literally just have a bunch of images, and then you programmatically create the sprite sheet from that, which I think is kind of cool. So I think at this point I've now done roughly the same thing in Love2D and Defold. My takeaways are, I think I enjoy Love2D more. I just,
really?
I'm not sure what it was about it. I just found it easier. Like, it was more intuitive to me. And Defold seems more robust, professional.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of covered that last time where Love2D definitely it's not thinking as much about the bigger picture of making a game. And Defold is a little more ambitious in terms of its scope of what it allows you to do kind of out of the box without having to make your own. It comes with some things that are already done, and it has the whole IDE with, like the sprite editor and the animation editor, and I think you can also make particles with it.
And like just right now I hit a button and it built an HTML5 version out of it. Right. So like that's out of the box, which I think if I remember correctly, Love2D required some plugin or something to be able to do that, or some special case. You were the one who
I'm not sure. I mean, as far as like exporting it to the web, I don't think either of them are going to be a deal breaker.
It definitely seems easier to do
in Defold,
or in
Defold, I think it just benefits from, like I said, the scope and the ambition of what it assumes you're trying to do with it, whereas Love2D is a little closer to the, like I said before, like the Pico 8 and the Tic 80 and the kind of fantasy console type of games where, like I think a lot of the tutorials start you off with primitives, like making a line or making a rectangle or making a triangle. Like I went through this one tutorial that they suggested from the wiki that is done on some website called like sheeppollution.com. And they have a full like 22-step tutorial that goes from everything from, loading Love2D to doing full-on animation. But, it starts with squares or rectangles and triangles, and then it moves on to sprites. Whereas Defold, I think, starts with sprites and does not start with primitives like that.
Well, because it really doesn't do though. I mean, like it does. Like I said, I was able to render a line, but it's not its default. I also find I'm comfortable with the message passing system. I've played around with Scheme and with Lisp and other languages that are, effectively a message is just a function
passing strings
call
between different parts of the
handled
game.
Weird. Yeah, but I don't love it. Love2D, I don't think, because I didn't look at it in 2 weeks. I don't think that used that. It felt more like just a standard. You're writing some code and it does stuff, which I do prefer. I will say I haven't gotten to the point of trying to lay out a level in either of them, and except a little bit in Defold, and it definitely was easy to do in Defold. I was like, click, 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 tiles done. Collision maps, same deal. I was like, okay, I'm putting these rocks here on this layer, done. It was visual, it was very straightforward. So I liked all that. Love2D just was more my type of language because it was very. I didn't start using an IDE until like 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
I was just like VI, unless I had to because of the language. I was like, I don't need all that. Let me just code up in VI or Emacs.
So what made you
Pico.
finally start regularly using an IDE? JavaScript?
A coworker of mine was using VS Code a lot, and I saw the benefit of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Because prior to that, I'd used like I'd done like Visual Studio programming, which for Visual C++ for my past job, and that was fine. But I found it more frustrating to use than not. And it's amazing that the same company that made that made VS Code, because VS Code is good. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I've used both. I remember back when I did C#, I did everything in Visual Studio, like, I don't know, 2010 or something like that.
Oh, that's advanced compared to what I had.
Yeah, well, because you needed to be able to compile it, even though it was all for a website. It was all in C# and it was using like .NET, so it was compiling your code into things that the web could understand. And yeah, it was much easier. I mean, yeah, I could have potentially written it all in just Notepad and then passed it to the .NET compiler, but why would you do that when it's so much easier to do it in the IDE? So to contrast that, I actually did quite a bit in Love2D, which you just described as being pretty easy in Defold, which was trying to load a level of sprites or tiles. I'm calling them tiles, but they're just PNGs. Like,
Yeah.
I made this game based on one of the band names that our friends and I come up with every once in a while on our Slack, and called it Wharf Quail, because that was one we really liked. There's no wharf, there's no quail in it, but it was just like an easy to remember name. So, and I decided I wanted to try doing isometric instead of overhead.
Okay. I've never really seen what the difference is. Like, I know two games I know a game from each.
Yeah.
But like, to me, they feel fundamentally the same.
I mean, it's really just like the way. I mean, it seems kind of like it's kind of a gimmick, really. Like, in terms of technically what you're doing, you're still just placing repeating tiles on a screen and then moving some kind of object around on it, like an avatar, and then enemies move around on top of it. It's just that everything in this one graphic pack I got, everything is at like a 45-degree angle. So instead of like the camera...
Okay, that's the isometric.
Yeah, looking directly down, like in the example of your walking astronaut, it's more like you take that camera and you kind of shift it like around 45 degrees, like you're looking down at an angle. And so when you move, you're not moving left and right. You're moving like left up or right up and left down and right down. And I'm blanking on like the obvious example of a video game that uses that.
Like old school Baldur's Gate and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, even more old school. Do you remember Zaxxon?
I do not, no.
There is a super old arcade game. I just watched this video recently where someone was like, you don't need an OS on your computer. We're going to write Zaxxon in assembly to the bare metal. And he basically did it in like a UEFI bootloader and like wrote a custom thing in the bootloader. So basically when you start up the computer, it loaded that and it loaded Zaxxon, but no OS or anything else. Anyway, that's what made me think of it. But you're an spaceship and you're flying, but you're flying from like the bottom left of the screen towards the top right of the screen, and you can move up and down. So there's like levels of like there might be a wall that's like a certain height, and if you don't move up as you're moving, you will crash into it. So it has that, but it's still just like a bunch of tiles on the screen and another image that you're controlling. It's just, it has this awareness of like where the collision is, and that collision is on a kind of like a 45-degree angle rather than a 90-degree angle.
I feel like the advantage to isometric is that it looks more realistic in 3D than a top-down does.
Right.
I don't really care.
I mean, it was mainly because I had already done the Defold tutorial that was the left-right platformer, and that felt really flat to me. And I'm like, okay, I've seen and I've done this. I wanted to try something that challenged me a little bit, so that's kind of why I went with the isometric. But the point of it is that I wanted to see if I could lay out a level, like if I could like load a level of this game that we're playing, and how would I do that? Like I was thinking much more low level in terms of like the structuring of a game, which is something I often do when I don't have any idea about what the game is actually supposed to be. I get heavy into the meta of the game, and I'm like, okay,
oh yeah,
let's just assume we have an awesome game with a theme and characters and weapons and goals and all that kind of stuff. But how do you actually make that happen? Like when you double click the app or the EXE or whatever, and it starts, like, what is the game doing? And what are you presented with? And so that's what I kind of got deep into. And so I found this, there's this guy named Kenny, Kenney, who makes tons of free video game assets, much like you were talking about how you have a whole bunch of them. He posts on the game dev subreddit all the time, and I'm like, wait a second, this is the same person who keeps posting this. I'm going to just follow this person to the source, and I found this website that's just full of them. And so I downloaded a bunch of asset packs, and one of them was like a dungeon crawler isometric asset pack. So it had like an avatar that was in every, not just the cardinal directions, but also the ones in the middle. So you had like left, right, up, down, and northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. And it had animations of both running and idle. So I was like, ooh.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, like you said, I'm also not an artist. This is not something I'm going to be able to easily put together that looks nice. So I'm just going to grab someone else's who's already done this, and it's free. This resource is amazing. And so I'm like, okay, in Love2D, now that I've got all these assets, how do I actually load this into a game and make that avatar appear? And when I press a button, they move. And when I move, they make the animation and they make it in the right direction. And also, like, when you get to the edge of the screen, you should stop. Like, that should be a border, at least as far as because I just have a one scene, one level.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed.
Well, that's all my astronaut does.
Yeah, like I didn't
give him a door.
Right.
He hits a wall.
Right. I haven't even gotten to like moving to a different thing, but basically I have like grass, I have a shore, and I have water. And so I spent a lot of time just figuring out like, okay, you know, I was channeling you, Matt. I was thinking that there is an object library that basically lets you create objects in Love2D, which it doesn't really do natively, but it does have tables, and it basically just kind of like is a wrapper around tables that allows you to make classes with properties and methods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I did that, and I made like a level class, and that level takes specific tiles, and then it goes through these little for loops that say, okay, draw, you know, from X0 to X600 down to Y600 and do. And then I made an entity class, which would be like my avatar, which would be enemies, which could be bullets or items or power-ups or whatever. And then I made an avatar class that inherited from that. So you get all the basics, like, okay, every entity has like a position, it has a direction. I added the idea in the level one of like whether a tile was passable or not, so that that way when you get to the collision part, because the collision of around the edge of the level is one thing, but there's also just like when your character meets up with, say, like a building or an item or the shore, like that should be,
can't go past it.
Yeah, it should be a barrier. So I did a lot of that stuff.
You shouldn't have had to make your own thing for that, though. I'm pretty sure that there's libraries for Love2D for physics and collisions and all that stuff.
Right, there is, but I think like you, I find a lot of value in writing that myself and figuring out how it works.
That's fair.
So
I've done that before in general, and now I'm like, I never need to do that again. Collision engines are very useful. It's like, did these two things hit? Yes, great. Yeah. And sprites have a very like specific way of doing that. It's well known in the game industry.
Yeah.
So some of it's like, oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
Right. If you make your own object, then you got to do your own collision detection, which I think my 2D slingshotty thing that I made in Love2D was, I think I had my own collision detection in there because I didn't have sprites.
Yeah.
Or no, no, that's what it was. I gave it boxes. I said, I was able to say this thing's borders basically were a circle centered on this point that was this many pixels in radius or something like that. And I was still able to use the collision thingy.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's something that I still find, because I haven't done it a ton, so I still kind of find it interesting to figure out, okay, how do I do that in this framework, you know? But yeah, I mean, once you get the basic idea of like, okay, how to put a character on the screen and how to make sure that it doesn't go out of bounds and it, you know, knows when it's touching something it needs to pick up. Like, yeah, it gets rote pretty quickly. And at some point you're like, wait a second, this is a solved problem. I'm going to spend way more time trying to figure this out than if I just grab a library that has already solved this like 30 years ago. And yeah, like in our actual game that we make, that's probably the way to go. And making your own collision detection code is not worth it. but it's still fun to kind of think about how it works. So I got pretty deep into that. I got deep into like trying to put stuff in a specific, directory structure. Like how does Lua, bring in other things? Of course, because I'm me, I had to figure out how music and sound effects work. So I figured out how to load music and toggle it on and off. And I also made it a little smarter than normal. And I make it so that when you toggle it off, it grabs whatever frame of the audio file it had gotten to and like writes that to a temporary file. So if you then hit M again to toggle it, it unpauses from that and doesn't like and start from the beginning every time. It does a true pause and unpause, and it loops nicely rather than. And that's stuff that I did in Web Audio API in JavaScript years ago. But it's those little tiny things that like turn what is your first game project that's amateur into something that feels smooth. That like all the games that people make now, you assume that kind of stuff is going to be in there. But like when you're first starting, you realize, oh yeah, there's a bunch of tiny little things you got to do to make this neat. So
exactly.
Yeah.
You played around with parts I didn't play around with, which is good because, that's one of the reasons I think it'll be good for us to do this together.
Yeah.
We have complementary skills. We have overlaps, but we also have places where it's going to be like, it's you. Music, you go for it, man.
Yeah.
I'm not touching that. I play almost all my games completely silent because I'm usually sitting on the couch. Although I have found some games that I'm currently playing. I'm playing Silk Song right now.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of like, you need to have the sound on or you're going to die.
Yeah.
Areas like this creature is going to jump out of the dark at you and you don't have any warning other than it going like now sound I am down with doing
like sound effects and stuff.
Yeah. I like doing Foley and I dig all that, so that'll be
and
fun.
I think that kind of stuff yet once again is really what like I think it's the juice that they call it that really turns, since once again, we're being honest with ourselves, there's millions of games that have been made and there's like hundreds of thousands that are being put on the Steam library like every second. And it's hard to stand out, but like those are the kinds of things that like when you're playing a game and the sound effect for the thing just makes sense and it feels good and it has almost like an ASMR quality to it. That's, it makes you stand out. And even it just makes me want to play the game myself more. And honestly, like if I don't get sick of it, then most likely other people won't. But if I'm playing it and I'm hearing that same sound effect for, whatever, and it's annoying, then, I'm going to want to change it so it isn't annoying.
It's one of those things that makes writing comedy in games difficult is the repetition. And I think the same thing happens with sound effects, right? It's, oh, that's a cool sound effect once, or that was a cool cutscene once.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mind that I have to hit 17 buttons. I have to hit A 17 times to get through this thing once.
Right.
But when you have to do it again and again or hear the same thing again and again, and it's like there's some magic there, right? Like I could go back and play Metroid and just enjoy the music. Today.
Yeah.
And I've been playing that game since it came out. Like that, the magic there is good, and the sound effects are minimal, except when you're about to die. If I remember
it starts
correctly.
beeping.
Because every game has a knowing you're about to die.
That should not have been a thing. I just played this game that it's called Mars Logistics 1, and we saw my wife and I watched somebody streaming it for a few hours, and basically it's a kind of a sandboxy simulator, physics simulator game where you're a rover on Mars. And you're tasked with moving objects from one place to another, but your rover is configurable, kind of in a Lego sense. So you can buy pieces, and you can add like a little finger that moves on a servo. You can add like a hydraulic piston that will like something up and then back down, or little claws that can like clamp on something. And the idea is like, okay, move this object from here to here and figure out how to build your little rover to do that. And the graphic style is, I don't know if you ever played the amazing game. It immediately made me think of this game, Chants of Sonar. Did you ever play that game?
Nope. Never heard of it.
Chants of Sonar is a kind of point-and-click adventure game, except it's all based around language. Everybody speaks to you in of an audio language that you can't understand, but they put like the words on the screen so you can see them, and basically you have to decode what they're saying to move on to like the next area. And it's very minimal. The graphic style is very similar, kind of like a heavy line but flat color drawing of everything. You'd know it if you saw it.
Okay.
I love that game. I wish I could erase my brain with that memory and play the game again. Like, I liked it so much. It was so unique. I like language. It was not super difficult. It wasn't twitchy. It was just live in this cool world and figure out its mysteries. This Mars game gave me a very similar thing. Like, there's no words. Nobody's talking to you. Nobody's like, it's just like, here's a basic task. Go to it, figure it out however you want to figure it out. And there's something very calming and there's something very satisfying about a game that is confident enough to have like a system that just works and gives you minimal coaxing, but enough to understand that you have these goals that you're trying to solve, and then just kind of lets you figure it out. I mean, there is help, and it's not like supposed to be mysterious, but it is just like, it's not beating you over the head with like tutorials and treating you like you're dumb. It's just like, here's a cool system, figure it out. And there you go. And so that's something that keeps coming back to me when I think about what kind of game would be fun, even though we did come up with the idea of like a Fallout-based Zelda, which already kind of has a bunch of its own like traits and attributes that kind of are assumed. I don't know if making your typical adventure where you're the hero and you have NPCs and they're telling you to go here and kill 10 rats and find the mystical orb of doom. I mean, it sounds fun to make, but I don't know if that's really what I want to play. So I don't know if that's something. I don't know. I'm still kind of bumping around in my head, like, what is it that I even really enjoy playing right now?
I still have this vision for an Angry Birds style Metroidvania, and I still feel like there's legs there. And even if we don't end up building it, I'm going to end up building it. Now, as long as I'm jumping in here and playing with things. But yeah, I think we've started to hone in on like, what do we want? I think maybe right before we get off this call, let's just pick Love2D or Defold as what we want to go, and then let's just start building stuff. I could go either way. Now, something to keep in mind, I have been playing with this, is most coding these days happens through things like Claude Code. And I have been leveraging that. Claude seems to do a fine job of taking an existing project of either and adding stuff to it. I was able to do things in both Love2D and Defold through Claude. Worked great. Porting from one to the other, Love2D to Defold was pretty bad. I couldn't get it to work great. It worked okay, but it didn't work what I would consider good.
Okay.
Mostly because the game I had didn't use sprites, and then Love2D or Defold required it, and so it tried to like do its own thing. And I think Claude just biffed it on trying to generate sprites, frankly, because I just had squares and circles.
Yeah,
really. Go in the other direction. I actually just had it do it while you were talking.
Ooh.
Let's find out how it went.
I mean, I would think going either way would be difficult because they both have their own kind of built-in library. Like love dot blah, blah, blah doesn't exist in Defold. So how does it translate that to what Defold would do and vice versa?
A lot of that stuff has its own counterparts, right? Okay, so I've got an astronaut. He cannot walk. He's walking, but he seems to be stuck on a wall. He's shooting in the wrong direction, but he is shooting.
Claude.
It doesn't make anything go away. Now, can I slingshot? Did it do that correctly? Okay, it did that correctly. But it doesn't seem to want to let me walk. Oh, hey, there we go. If I shoot enough of the bricks, I can walk. Collision is definitely wrong. But I got an astronaut. He kind of walks. Occasionally, the animation stops.
Well, and
I'm thinking
at
so there's some ability to do this.
Well, and I'm thinking at this point in that game, you could fix up the inconsistencies. But if you did like a full game with multiple files in one and just said, put it in the other one, it may not be worth it. I don't know.
I think you're probably right about that. Yeah. Like from an AI perspective, I think you're right. I don't think we're going to have tremendous success going from one to the other. Mm-hmm. We could probably have it do pieces of it.
Yeah.
Like what I imagine we would do is we would create a game, let's say in Love2D, and then we're like, you know what? This really does need to be in Defold for reasons XYZ. Let's bring it over there. And we would like create a skeleton of it. Mm-hmm. Like create a new project, right. Get and the basic things working, and then say, bring the astronaut over.
Yeah.
Does that walk? Cool. Let's get collision. Like I think piecemealing it you could do, but saying port this entire project didn't seem to work well.
Yeah. I mean, that might be too much of an ask, but yeah.
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah. I also didn't give it any boundaries. I just said, port this to Love2D.
Right. You didn't say successfully or well.
So from making a level perspective, I do think Defold is superior, having done a little bit of it in both.
Yeah.
But I didn't play around with doing it with tiles, with sprites, like you did in Love2D.
Yeah.
I just saw how the editor looked in Defold.
Yeah. I think we kind of came to this conclusion last time, too, is that in the end, we will probably end up using Defold. I can still figure stuff out in Love2D just because it has just because it has the same basic kind of structure. Because like I said, Love2D, the Defold like scripts that you have for like players or enemies or levels are very similar to the scripts that you would write in Love2D. They're in more of a meta collection container. Like Defold has that idea of like a collection that has things in it. And, it has more wrapping around the structure of the whole thing. Whereas Lua like literally just feels like a directory full of files that it's up to you to make them talk to each other and work together. Whereas Defold is like, no, we know what you're doing. We're going to make these things talk to each other and have this kind of built-in messaging between them, which is nice.
Yeah. I will say that it's not the most intuitive system to use. I am currently trying to remember how to toggle what tile is under the cursor, and it's none of the obvious things. So like that, it's not the best thing.
Yeah.
So there will definitely be some amount of learning.
Oh yeah.
To do it this way. But I don't think it's the worst.
Well, and you had mentioned that one thing that bothered you a little bit about something like Defold or Godot is that you're living in the IDE. Has that been a problem?
Yeah. I've not really, because I've been still doing a lot of the coding in VS Code. But also the IDE isn't terrible here. There are some things I don't like about it, though.
Oh, do tell.
I don't remember what they were. No, I don't remember what they were. But I've like multiple times I've gone to do a thing. I'm like, why? What?
Yeah.
I don't understand you.
Well, one of the things that tripped me up when I was working on it, back to talking about the message passing, is like where to put new components when I make them. Because there's like the directory structure there on the left where you have all your files. But then when you're actually in like one of those collection files, it opens up the palette, like the detail palette on the right side, which is more of a meta directory structure. And like where the game is looking for things in there versus what the actual file structure is on the left, there's a little disconnect between those two for me. I don't quite understand where I'm supposed to put things all the time, which does change how you send a message between things. And I ran into a lot of issues where I was sending messages with the wrong messaging pattern. And so things were like, oh, there's nothing there. What are you talking about? And I'm like, no, it's right there. But as far as it was concerned, it was not, because it was not, situated correctly or something.
Maybe what we do is we just kind of like what we talked about last time. We use Love2D as a prototyping engine.
Yeah.
And to play around with some ideas. And then once we go to write it proper, maybe we come back over to Defold. But because while, it's easier to do this, again, I can't figure out how to change this stupid thing right now.
Well, but it would be even harder to do that, I think, in Love 2D because it doesn't even have this kind of level editor layout
Right.
thing.
Well, then I would just edit the text.
Right.
I would come in here and I go like tile map, open as text, and then I just edit it myself.
Right.
Right. Which is a thing I like about Defold, right? I can
edit things as text.
Still,
yeah.
At the end of the day, come in and do that. And I like that. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Like, unlike Godot and Unity and all those kinds of things, like even though it has these kind of meta files that only Defold like is meant to read and write to, they are just text files that you can look into and they are readable. So that's nice.
I guess maybe since okay, so we like these two.
Yeah.
We probably, I think I like coding in Love 2D more. I think Defold maybe is going to be the right answer for us for like a full-fledged game. Or prototyping. So like, but maybe that's the next step is let's go and try out some of the like the things that we're talking about. You were talking about sort of that, I don't have a term for it, but the Mars rover one you were talking about, the sort of like hands-off approach to like no tutorials, just like here's a thing, it works, go.
Yeah.
You could, I don't have any game ideas for that at all offhand. But I haven't thought about it either. But we could just start trying to play around with like, would this even make sense?
Yeah,
I want to try my Metroid Birdia.
Yeah, no, and I think you should. I think at this point, because we are not like 100% decided on what our game is going to be, I'm perfectly fine with us spending time working on prototypes that just make sense to at least one of us, if not both of us. And coming back and saying, okay, like I've put some real effort into doing this kind of game, and I really like the direction it's going. You know, do you want to join in? And then now we're working on it together, or no? And then we it becomes your project. Because I think something that I get out of doing an exercise like this is just like you said, like, hey, even if Mike doesn't like this Metroid brainy Vania bird thing, I like it, and I'm going to do it anyway. And what got you down this path was starting this project. Yep. I mean, I still want to actually make our game, but I think if there's offshoots, then that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like at this point, we're at the stage where it's like, okay, we need to try out these mechanics.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that we want to do. What is it that's going to make this game unique to us?
Yeah.
Right? It's not just every game ever.
Yeah.
And that could be theming, right? Like if we made a Fallout-esque Zelda-like, that might be enough, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows how this plays. It's standard, but the actual game story or gameplay or something is really fun, and hopefully not get sued by Valve or whoever it is that makes Fallout. Is it Valve?
No, I think it's Interplay or Bethesda. Sorry, Bethesda.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about making the Fallout 2D Zelda-like is that, once again, there's a lot of trappings of that kind of game. Mm-hmm. It kind of forces us to work on a lot of content, and when I'm playing, and when I mention a game like Mars Logistics 1, there is just, there's a map of Mars, and there's some buildings, and there's some terrain, which, is not sprite based. Obviously that was, generated through some kind of generation algorithm, which is interesting.
Are you sure it didn't generate? Are you sure it's not sprite based though? Because you could generate a tile map.
No, because I mean the rover you're working on.
What's the name of the game?
It's called
again?
Mars Logistics 1. And it's definitely a 3-dimensional game. It's not sprites. Like there is a model of your rover that you are modifying, and it has a real physics engine, and other objects have a real physics engine, and they move around in 3 dimensions. But so it's not sprite based. It's more it's a 3D model base. And
interesting. I see what you're talking about with the animation or with the
graphical style. Yeah, it's very like thin lines and solid flat colors. It evokes a kind of mood and feeling when a game looks like that. Like it's not going for ultra realism. It's going for like vector math based graphics instead of like 16.7 million colors and realistic lighting and such.
So what do we want to do for next time?
What do we want to do for next time?
Because at some point we got to pick a game and start making it. But right now we're very much in the experimental.
We're very much in the experimental. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just trying to figure out like, do we want it to be overhead? Do we want it to be isometric? Do we want it to be side scrolling? Do we want it to be something completely different? Is it 2D or 3D? I mean, I think we're gonna go with 2D.
Where do we expect people to be playing?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, sure,
because if it's a phone, then you don't want a lot of complicated controls.
Yeah.
You want simple controls.
Yeah.
If it's on a computer, then you can have all sorts of stuff going on. If it's with a controller, you have somewhere in between there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't want to make a game that I have to sit at my computer to play.
I like the idea of being able to play it from my phone or my iPad or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't find movement on most of those games very easy.
Right.
Or if it is, then I find hitting any of the actions difficult because I can't pay attention to enough things. So if we're gonna do for like a mobile type experience, we don't want a twitchy type game at all. Mm-hmm. Like it should be turn based, or it should be like you can't screw up. Maybe you don't walk. Maybe you click on the screen to go somewhere.
Right.
Like old school point and click adventure games.
So it has to have, like, if you have an actual character you're moving, it has to have some basic pathfinding of knowing how to get from point A to point B.
If it's the click on the screen and it goes there.
Right.
And for something like a top-down 2D or even an isometric, we're going to want that. But if it's something like the Slingshot Metroid, right, then it doesn't need pathfinding. You shoot yourself to a place.
Right. And
that's where you are.
Land wherever it lands. Yeah.
So a lot of it boils down to that. I love the idea of like really simple interfaces that give you a really not complex, but a really rich game experience, right? Balatro, it couldn't be much simpler, right? It's click and drag, or press. Like it's almost nothing.
Yeah.
Very, very little you can do.
Yeah, well, and that game,
it's probably harder on a computer than it is on my iPad.
Yeah,
certainly harder on a console than it is on either.
Yeah, yeah, that game was definitely written touch first, and move with a controller later.
Or mouse first.
Yeah. Mouse. Yeah, mouse or touch first.
And I do think people are drawn to those casual, like, I mean, those tend to boil down to like more casual style games. Mm-hmm. I don't really know where that line is between casual and just easy to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like I consider something like Candy Crush to be a casual game. It's not it's I hop on, I play for 5 minutes and I'm done. That's casual to me. It's not a full game. It's not how you play it. Right?
I put
the style in which it's meant to be played.
I put Balatro in a casual game category.
I think it is.
It's
right?
just it's very deep. Like it's easy. It's simple. It's like one of those simple to learn but very difficult to master games.
A minute to learn, a lifetime to master.
Yeah.
Othello.
Like everything you do at any point is just on the screen. Like you're not moving scenes. Yep. Everything is just kind of updating as you tap on things.
Yeah, it's a very simple.
Yeah, it's a card game. I mean, that's how card games are. Like there's no story, there's no theming, there's no characters, it just has progression. It has you are, like you said, unlocking jokers or unlocking new game modes, like new decks, new chips, difficulties, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, like literally you're just tapping on cards. That's it.
Right. But I think what makes that game 2D or not 2D is casual. Mm-hmm. What makes Balatro casual in my mind is the way it's kind of designed to play it, right? You hop in and you're playing a new game. It's like going and playing solitaire. Effectively, Balatro has replaced solitaire in my life.
Yeah.
When I want to just sit and kind of even mindlessly sometimes play a game, that's a great one. I use it a lot if I'm watching TV that doesn't really grab my attention, but that maybe I want to hear what's going on or my family's watching it, tend to have my iPad with Balatro open the whole time. So we could design a game like that. We could design a game that is, not intended to be picked up and put down casually, and it's more like, okay, you're going to sit down for an hour and play this, right? But like most games these days fall somewhere in between those in my mind. Even a game like Silksong is definitely not casual, but I just stop playing it when I want to take a break because it's on my Steam Deck. So I just hit the power button. I hit start to pause, and then I hit the power button, and it's not saved, but it's not going anywhere as long as I don't run out of power.
Yeah. I think no matter what we do, having the ability to save it at any moment is kind of is less of a game choice and more of a what you're playing it on. And almost everything that you play games on now has that kind of quick freeze saving method. So it almost doesn't matter what you're in the middle of. But I also think it's important to have little bite-sized, chunkable progressions inside your game, no matter how long or casual it is. Like, because you can, you can play a round of Balatro, pretty quickly, or you can just stop in the middle of it, and it doesn't really matter. Like, you could just play an ante or two, and then be like, I'm not really feeling it, and start a new one. I mean, that's fine.
Which is often what I do. Right?
Yeah,
I usually have a game going until I lose, because eventually you always lose. I mean, you could when you win at the 8th ante or whatever it's called, end the game. Yeah. That's the only win condition. But I always go into endless and see how far I can make it until the blinds get so big I can't do
but
anything.
Even then, you can just exit out of the game or put it to sleep, and it will just go right back to where you were. Yeah. So but that's just that's part of the OS it's running on, that it knows how to do that with an app.
Yeah, and I like that idea, though. I hate games that won't let me save when I need to save. Or pause when I need to pause, Elden Ring.
Yeah. Well, and that's sometimes, if you get into multiplayer stuff, there's no easy way to pause.
Well, that's why Elden Ring doesn't let you pause, except I wasn't playing a multiplayer. But theoretically you could, so you can't pause. I'm like, my hand hurts.
Yeah.
Pause for a second.
Because
I need a breather.
I feel like we've progressed beyond Super Mario Brothers, where there's no one's going to pause in the middle of a level. They're just going to keep playing until they die, and then they're done, and that's the game.
Yeah, I pause all the time in the middle of things because someone will talk to me, or I need to go look something up, or my phone rings. Right, there's adult life is interruptions.
Yeah. Another game that I just played and beat that my wife and I played co-op was Lego Voyagers.
Oh, I saw you talking about that online.
We finally beat it. It only took 5.5 hours to beat the whole thing, so it's not a very long game, but it is one of those games where also there is no voiceover, there's no tutorialization. They're just here's a little character, here's a world, figure it out. And occasionally there's you got to press this button to jump or press this button to lock onto a brick or something, but it's very much just about making a thing and making it fairly easy to figure out and then just go. And that thing really appeals to me. And also it appeals to me as someone who, doesn't necessarily want to write a bunch of lore and a bunch of story and a bunch of dialogue. That seems not the kind of game I want to play.
I don't play games for story. I really don't. I need to have an objective, but I don't need... I never want the characters I'm talking to ever say more than one bubble of text. You say one thing and then bring it back to me. Don't click, because I stop reading it or I start skimming it. Anyway, okay. So for next time, what are we doing?
For next time,
prototyping something that we want to play with.
Let's have the goal that whether it's in Love2D or whether it's in Defold, it doesn't matter. Build something that you want the other person to play. So it should have the ability to start it up. It should have an obvious goal, and there should be a win and a lose condition, and let the other person and there should have to be minimal, I think, instruction from the other person. Just say, here's a game. It's called this. Play it and see what happens.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. My goal is going to be to make a very simple version of my Slingshot Metroidvania.
Okay.
I have a few ideas around, like, I want to be able to make it so you could get a couple of upgrades of one type or another, and then just like get to the top of this screen or something dumb like that.
Exactly. It should just have at least a goal that you can win.
Go to this door and walk through it. You win.
Yeah.
You didn't get through the door. You lose.
And I mean, I guess there doesn't have to be a lose condition, but I feel like that's kind of part of the spirit of like there is a way to lose, because if there's no way to lose, then is it a game really? I don't know. It's more of an activity. It's more of a tour. You're taking a tour, I think. If there's no way to lose, if there's no, I don't know.
I think of it more like solitaire or something, where you have a score that you get, and you're trying to beat your high score, whatever that is.
Okay.
Or trying not, or you have a certain number of moves maybe that you can make. Like I like the golf solitaire that you make your game.
Dectal, yeah.
Like that's super fun because it's got an objective, but you're still playing the entire time, and it might work. It might work. Oh no, I got down to 3 cards and I can't do anything. But then at the end, you have a score. Like you didn't win, but you could compete with other people who are playing it. So like, there's ways of doing that. But yeah, so you don't necessarily have to have a lose condition, but you have to have some sort of consequence. Yeah. I'm gonna send you an electrode that you have to hold while you play it, and anytime you don't do something perfectly, it zaps you.
Yeah. Let's do that. That sounds great. And and I think I want to work on the idea of. I don't know if I'm going to stick with isometric. That was more just something I wanted to see how well that worked. I think I might go back. I kind of like the just overhead, like the walking astronaut one you were talking about. So I think I might move to that. But what I want to do is take that idea and actually have like some exits that go to other places that load other things. And there needs to be some kind of journey that you go on to get to the end of something, and that's like the win. So that's kind of what I want to work on.
There's some sort of challenge, whatever, in the things we're making. There's some sort of challenge, some obstacle that you must overcome to get to the win condition. Like you have to go through 3 rooms, and each of those rooms requires a key, and you have to get the key. And it's as simple as walking around, touch key, touch door, right? Is a game. It's not a good game, but it's a game.
Yeah. And it touches, and also for me, and I know this is like window dressing for most people, but I really like the idea of like starting up the game and there being like a title screen and press start. Like you are presented with the challenge, but it's up to you to say, I'm ready, let's go. And then when you win, it also shows like you have done the thing. Yay, press here to restart.
Well, that shows a transition between types of screens too, and that's the thing that not necessarily prototype with gameplay, but it's useful for us to know. Hey, what does this look like to do in these game engines? Maybe it's a huge pain, right? Maybe I build this thing and I'm like, man, that was too much work. But now I have this prototype of how it plays, and we're like, yeah, we want to do this. Or you have one where like, yes, we want to do this, and we can build on top of it, or move it over to something and then build on top. But until we start. That's what makes it like a real game, right? Is having all those extras. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a toy. But I mean, that's what a prototype is in my mind.
Yeah, and that's just the kind of stuff that I can get lost in, because like I know it's not like the meat of it, but it needs to be done, and it kind of helps push me towards thinking it's a real game when it has those things, and it's not just a toy mechanic thing that that exists on its own, that it's part of something bigger. So, all right, well, there you go. I think we have our idea. I look forward to the next time we talking about these games that we will have made and played and thought about.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, that does it for this episode of Hacking the Grepson, where we have yet again checked in on our Let's Make a Game. If you want to hear our previous episodes where we talked about other things, about like what kind of game should we make, what engine should we use, all that kind of stuff, you can go to hackingthegrepson.com. Also, there's a whole season before that of other stuff, which is not necessarily about making a games, but is programming related. Go listen to that. And until the next time we talk at you, we now return you to your regularly scheduled lives already in progress.